All right, what up, YouTube? I'm back once again with the market shenanigans, with the batch analysis. Gonna go over my trades as I always do, and it should be a very short one this time because I only have one trade. Last week I actually had zero trades, so if we start the normal way that we usually do, there's not gonna be much to say here. I was patient, I followed my rules, there was absolutely nothing, markets were choppy as fuck. I think maybe there was something on US oil or whatnot. I think I added US oil, yeah, here. I added US oil back on the watch list simply because I thought, hey, actually on like the 1 minute or even the 10 minute, this is a tradable asset and it's in a good context right now. I mean, if I jump here into trading view, we can see that if I go into a higher time frame, let's say like a 1 week, we can see that's a big move, right? And I think that's worth following. So on like the daily, yep, like this is a big move that pulled back. I don't really like this big wick, but it's whatever. Yeah, there might have been something. But to be completely fair, yeah, like looking at this move over here, it was really nice, but ideally it would reaccumulate somewhere over here and go on a continuation and we would follow it here, right? The moment it dumped like this really hard, I would need to wait for a stage one, which kind of happened over here, and I then start following over here, right? But now it's kind of just dragging its balls higher, and I'm not sure if it's worth following. Like, I'm doing this batch analysis on Monday simply because I didn't have time on the weekends, and I will not have time on the weekends for the upcoming 5 or 6 weeks because I'm doing a course. And yeah, so that's why I'm doing it on Monday, and I will continue doing it on Monday. So right now we can see where the market currently is, and I am watching it a little bit, but I'm very uncertain whether I even should, simply because of how it looks. Yes, it is a momentum cycle, but it's like really weak. So maybe I shouldn't even watch this. Like here I am on a 10 minute, right? And I was kind of willing to look for a trade in this area for continuation, but perhaps I shouldn't. Anyway, I drifted off a little bit. So yeah, that's the only thing that went bad. There was a trade on US oil on this week, I think, and it would have been a break even, I believe. But that's okay. My results were zero, and if I traded perfectly, it would be zero as well. So it was a perfect week. That's very nice. So let's go into last week real quick. So that was week 11. Let's open that up and see what was going on. Nothing has changed in terms of my instructions. That's all the same. So Monday, let's see if there was anything. Nope, Monday was trash. Honestly, lately the weeks have been really bad, and I kind of assumed no trade, not just no trade days, but entire no trade weeks. So I very often don't even fill stuff out simply because I check the market out in the morning and it's trash, right? So that's why. And on Wednesday, I did watch something. All right, so I watched AUD USD. So here on the weekly, this looks very good, right? We have some kind of choppy nonsense happening here on the bottom, very wiki action, very weak, very similar to how US oil is dragging itself higher now, but here on the weekly. But then eventually it clears out, and here it looks very good, in my opinion. Like this whole thing is a stage one at the bottom, but then big momentum comes in, momentum cycle is on the daily, big move continues, right? Lots of wicks on the bottom showing demand and absorption, and now breaking into a new range, into a new high. So I thought this is good to follow, definitely. And then I had US oil over here. I already talked about it. This big wick I don't like. That's proof that there is a lot of supply, and I guess I should not be watching it. That doesn't look good. So yeah, maybe need a little bit more patience on that. Just because there is a big move doesn't mean that I need to follow it. Like it can invalidate just by having this huge wick. That simply shows that there is a lot of sells present, and we want one-sided market, not just in terms of direction, not just in terms of demand overpowering supply, but also in terms of ideally lack of supply, right, for a bullish market. So US oil probably not the best. Here was my watch list screenshot. So usually I just capture the V, which is a 10-minute here for me. And I was looking for AUD USD to break above here, and I didn't draw in the horizontal, but yeah, there's also a horizontal here, so quite a lot would need to happen for it to break out. And similar here for US oil, I already drew in this stage 1 here, and if I saw a breakout higher, I would probably follow it. So AUD might set up today, but it didn't. So nothing happened on Wednesday. Thursday, again, I was watching AUD USD. Yeah, here it pulled back quite a bit on the daily, so I think I'm gonna see it on the 10-minute that lots needs to happen, right? But yeah, it was worth watching for sure. And US oil, similar story. Here it actually continued going higher, and I thought, okay, that could be interesting. So here, if we take a look on the 10-minute, right? So compared to the day before, AUD USD didn't actually do what it was supposed to do. Here I went to the 100-minute just to already zoom out a little bit more and see what's going on, because this is still like a valid pullback, and if it broke out, it could be interesting, but it's probably not going to happen on that day, but still was worth watching. But here, the 10-minute on US oil looked kind of decent, right? I mean, this is exactly the type of stuff that I want to see. And actually, this is something that I have realized on this day. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be entering this market on the 1 minute, and I stick to it kind of rigidly. And I didn't realize that I can, not didn't realize, but it didn't even occur to me that I can enter this on the 10-minute. And this was actually a beautiful 10-minute entry right over here. I could have entered that because this did everything it was supposed to, right? It broke out over here strongly above the horizontal and diagonal, and then it reaccumulated, right? Some lows were liquidated on the 1 minute, and that would technically allow me to set up a buy stop order right above this MB, and that would be a valid entry. But I did not consider that, unfortunately. Anyway, US oil is the only thing that looks somewhat decent, and I end up taking a trade on it, and that's this trade. So let's take a look. So here on the 100, right, this is the stage 1 that I drew in. Let me change the color real quick. And here it breaks out very strongly, right? This candle I really like. And as it breaks out, I kind of started watching it. And I can actually see it here, right? The argument I made before. This is a beautiful MB on the 10-minute, which was buy stoppable. If we take a look at the 1-minute here, you can see I graded out. This is the grayed out area, and that's this over here. So this would need to have a reaccumulation in it for me to be viable or valid to set up a buy stop. And actually, I'm wondering if this would have tapped me in and out. It probably would have, right? Let me take a smaller one. So, boop, yeah, it definitely would have. So maybe I would have taken a -1 here, because this is definitely a reaccumulation over here. So that would allow me to set up the buy stop. Maybe there is some kind of rule here that would not allow me just yet. Let me see. Would this be a reaccumulation? Maybe not. Maybe not. Like, I would probably need to see this reaccumulate. Okay. So that would actually not work. This would not be enough for me to set up the buy stop. So actually, only after this whole thing happened over here, then I would be valid to set the buy stop over here. That would tap me in, and I'm just wondering if that would also tap me out here. Probably wouldn't, and it would continue. Okay, cool. But I believe this came back to break even anyway. I remember this trade. So yeah, nothing here, but this is a 1-minute trade where I'm actually looking at this MB over here. So yep, this is a big move, definitely, and here it starts pulling back. I draw my diagonal, I draw my horizontal, I see a big breakout. This candle right here is the trigger for me to start watching for a trade. And here all I need is a reaccumulation on the 10-second, which honestly, like with the sell being this big, I kind of saw this whole thing as a reaccumulation, and I think that's pretty valid. And yeah, that allowed me to set up this buy stop over here. So I set it up, taps me in, and it instantly fucks me up. So this trade, I think it was okay. Like, the one thing that I do not like is the context itself, right? The context, if we go back in here, like this huge wick, I think I might have avoided it. Like, I think I might have been a little bit impatient here, and I was a little bit trigger happy just to get into a trade because, and this is what I'm talking about with patience, right? When you are patient for a long, long time, let's say you have weeks on weeks of no trades, you can get really excited when you see a big high time frame move, and maybe you get a little bit lenient, a little bit negligent with your rules, and you're like, yeah, I mean, this wick, okay, could not be the best, but man, the move is big, I want to be part of it, you know. Then you might even look for some additional confirmation bias with like, oh yeah, this is also fundamentally a very interesting move, you know, US oil is interesting because of the Iran war and whatnot, and this could be a generational move, blah fucking blah. Your mind just starts rationalizing. But I really think I should have avoided this. Like, yeah, the high time frame is just not the best. So yeah, if we take a look what happened over here, I don't even have to write anything. It's just a straight up -1. So on the 100-minute, I don't know what to think of this, man. It's like, it's really gray area-ish. If I checked, like, if this trade was just from the 10-minute lower, it was a really nice trade, right? It followed all the rules. But on the 100 and higher, I don't know. Like, this was nice. The impulse here was nice. Pullback was decent. Looked like a start of a momentum cycle. I really don't know what to think about this. Like, I want to be as honest as possible with myself, and I want to be brutally honest, right? But I honestly don't know if this was a good trade or not. Like, it's not perfect. Let's just say that way. It's not perfect, and because of that, it should probably be seen as a mistake. Yeah, I guess so. So I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna call it a mistake. So let's go over here and right into the reflection. US oil probably not the best on the high time frame. Huge sell wick. All right. So because of that, I'm going to call this a mistake. And mistake why? Well, high time frame not ready, kinda. And what else do I have here? Let me see. Weak. Do I have anything with supply here? No, I don't. I do have wiki, right? Yeah, I have wiki. So I'm gonna say wiki, and I'm just gonna add this same comment here. High time frame looked bad. A huge sell wick. So yeah, I'm gonna call it a mistake, unfortunately. So yeah, that is the only trade that I took on this day. Ended up being a -1 and ended up being a mistake. Ideally, I would have not traded at all. So it is what it is. Let me prepare the next week here. Boom. Okay. That is week 12. Boom. There we go. Same focus as always. Nothing has really changed. And that is it. So I need to go through Friday as well, but I think Friday was also dead. Yeah, Friday was also dead. Okay. So that's the whole week. Let me just mark the mistake here. What was it? Ugly high time frame. Do I have anything with high time frame? Nope. Ugly high time frame. Yep. Let's create that and be done with it. So one mistake, one trade, one mistake, 100% mistake rate. Oh well, shit happens. Let's write it down into my forward test here. But still, hey, I only had one trade, and I think that by itself is pretty nice. So if I go into analysis here, trades taken. This was taken on March 12th. Was taken at 14.54, and it is a -1.2, and that deepens my drawdown to -17.23 here. Let's check out the curve. All right, still pretty much exactly where I was. So not a big deal per se. just taking one trade on something like this, even though it's not perfect, it's still kind of nice. It shows restraint, it shows patience, and I guess that's very important. One thing that I want to talk about a little bit is what I drew over here. And I've been watching Anton's webinars a little bit where he talks a lot about patience these days, which I like a lot. And I think I finally understood his context rules. So I always thought that as trend followers, we're really looking for a trending market, even all the way on the weekly. But actually what Anton does is he's not necessarily looking for a trending market, he's just looking for a convincing move. So a convincing move means simply that it needs to come out of a stage one, right? So if we have a stage one over here like this, the moment it breaks out with a strong candle, that's when he gets long, right? And he is long for as long as the momentum cycle stays intact. Then eventually when it starts going sideways and it creates another stage one, for me always, I was like, okay, if it breaks down here, that's just like reaccumulation. That's pretty normal, right? For me, this is waiting time, and I'm just waiting for some kind of reignition that happens right over here to get long again. But what Anton does is he is actually willing to go short over here right away. And that's something that I was not willing to do. I would always be in waiting mode, but he is willing to do that. So that's just one little detail that I have caught, and that kind of allows him to play this move down. But just like me, once it like starts going sideways and creates another stage one and then breaks higher, he's once again gonna follow long here. So the difference between how I trade and how he trades these days when it comes to the weekly is simply that when this happens, I am on the sidelines while he is actually willing to take risk to go lower. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Because this is a distribution, especially if it happens after a trend that has had, let's say, MB4 already. So here we would have MB1, MB2, maybe this is MB3. So usually these moves, they have 3, 4 MBs before they reverse or reaccumulate, take a breather, whatever you want to call it. And then they break down. Either they break down to continue lower or they break down to continue higher, right? I would always assume, because of trend rules, that whatever breakdown we have is for the purpose of reaccumulation and continuation. But he's willing to play this as well. So that is something that I can look into because it opens up a lot of new opportunities. New opportunities doesn't necessarily mean wins, right? It just means there's going to be a lot more trades. Now the question is whether these trades have positive EV connected to them or not. And well, clearly Anton is showcasing that they do. He has shown that he shorted a couple of US stocks that went very nicely into his favor after a big break under the distribution MB. And yep, that's something that I'm going to look into, maybe going to test a little bit and see if I want to include it into my system. It would be quite helpful, especially even though I'm a low time frame trader, right? I want to be in the direction of the weekly move. So if this is a weekly and we have a big breakdown, I might follow on the super low time frames to go even lower, because very often we're gonna see this, right? Or we're gonna see a little MB here and break down. It happens a lot, so just something for me to look into. But other than that, I'm actually not gonna hate on myself too much with regards to this week. I think it was decent. The US oil trade, although I classified it as a mistake, it wasn't nearly as bad as some of the mistakes I did in the past. It was kind of alright, I would say. So what went well, I was very patient and I did follow rules. What went bad is what went bad, again, it's like it's so hard for me to call this a mistake because it's like almost perfect, right? The US oil trade, almost perfect. But the high time frame might have been too weak. I don't know. Anyway, results are minus 1.2, minus 1.2, and had I traded perfectly, they would be 0. So yeah, not a big deal per se. If I risk 0.3% on my capital, I would have lost a little more than that, and I think that's pretty much okay. So yeah, that is gonna be all for next week. it's already Monday, right? I am watching UJ and I'm watching US oil. With UJ, it's a bit tricky. I'm just going to go back to TradingView here because, well, the 1 minute over here we can see is absolutely, the 100 minute is very disgusting. If I go into the weekly, like it's breaking above these highs over here, right? So I'm kind of thinking like this move here was very strong. It reaccumulated and now it's breaking into a new range higher. And I think there's a reason to follow this, right? But if we look into the lower time frames, this is kind of ugly. So it's definitely something that is going to be showing up on my context in the upcoming weeks, I guess, unless it invalidates. But I need the market to become very one-sided. One-sided both in terms of having a strong trend, right? And also of having not much supply. And right now, there's a lot of supply. Like, this is kind of just dragging its balls higher, and I'm not interested in that. But let's say if it reaccumulates here a little bit and then breaks out very strongly over here, I will be willing to play this leg or even the pullback and entries over here. So that's just a little bit of a outlook for this week. Okay, that's gonna be all for me today. How long have I been yapping for? 21 minutes for a single trade? Holy shit, that's way too long. Okay, see ya.